All right. Good morning, everyone. So today we're just going to go through a short thing about classes that we really haven't talked about yet, but is pretty important for what we're going to be doing in class. Now, again, for the aspect ratio of this video, I apologize. I'm recording on an ultra-wide monitor, um, but I'm going to do my best to try and crop this so it will actually like display decent on a Chromebook screen or any sort of screen that actually has a normal aspect ratio. So the first thing that we're going to do today is we're going to write a student class, just a basic student class, to illustrate what I'm talking about here. Right? So the first thing I'm going to start with is public class student, right? And let's say my student is going to come, I know I've used this example before, but it's going to come with two instance variables, right? A private string that represents their name, actually three things. We'll say a private integer that represents their grade, and a private double that represents their GPA, right? And so let's say this student is brand new to high school. Every student is going to get created when they're a freshman. So again, for my constructor, right, remember, because this is a good time to talk about this, right, it needs to match, right? This is public student constructor, matches exactly public class student, same casing, same everything. So just as a reminder, this is our constructor. And I'm going to take two instance variables here, string n, and actually, you know what, I'm just going to take one, just for their name, because everybody's an incoming freshman at this case, at this point, right? We're going to pretend that this is for all incoming freshmen, people who just graduated 8th grade. So in here, right, I'm going to say name equals n. Their grade, well, everybody's going to be in grade 9, right, because they're a freshman, and their GPA equals 0.0, right? At this point, you have no grades. It does not exist, so we just set our GPA equal to 0, right? And so let's say I'm just going to create a public void update grade, which we would call at the end of every year. So it just moves their grade forward one, right? This is like end of the year. You're now a sophomore. And we'll say public void, or you know what, we're not even really worried about GPA right now, but let's say public double get GPA, which is just going to return the GPA. And we'll create one more, public int get grade. I don't know why I keep hitting the capital P here, but that's okay. And this is just going to return grade. Now, so again, remember, right, this method is called a mutator, and these are called accessor methods. The reason for that, or the reason for both of these, right, a mutator is because it changes an instance variable. An accessor is because it helps you have access to an instance variable. Remember, because these are private here, I can't directly access them, right? If I try to do so, it's not going to work. So now, what I wanted to talk about in this video is actually trying to print an object, right? So the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back to my main class. Oops, not what I wanted to do. And I need to create a new student object, right? And I'm just going to use the name John. And this line of code here probably doesn't make any sense right now, unless you have prior experience in programming, which is fine. But don't worry right now about this. It's kind of, I know it can kind of seem confusing, but this is something that we will most definitely talk about in the coming weeks, probably next week. But just for right now, understand that what this line is doing, it's creating a new student. That's all it's doing, right? It's creating a student object. So you would think, though, right, what I'm going to try and do right now, I'm going to try and print John, right? Like this object John, not the string John. And I'm going to press run here, and we're going to take a look at what happens, right? So Replit goes through its thing, and I get this, student at 76ED5528. But that's not what I want, right? Like, I don't, do we even know what that is, right? Now, believe it or not, if you're not sure, this 76ED5528 is actually a hexadecimal number that represents John, this student's location in your computer memory, right? So you notice if I run this again, 3, 2, 1, prints the same thing, right? Because this student has now been created and stored in memory in my computer, right? If I change this name now to, let's say, Joe, and I print Joe, we'll see if this changes. Nope, still the same place because it's already created a box for this student object for me. So this here that's getting printed is the location in memory on the computer. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm trying to print this student object, I don't think I want the computer's location in memory, right? That's not exactly what I'm looking for, right? I probably want to print out something that's, my name is Joe, I'm in grade 9, and here's my GPA, right? Like prints a little bit of information about this student, right? And so for right now, just for the sake of space, and because I have the font here quite large, I'm going to get rid of this get grade because it's not a big deal right now, and I'm also going to get rid of get GPA. Because what we're going to talk about today is something called a toString, right? So public string toString. Oh boy, there we go, right? Now, a toString method, right? Specifically with this name, it must have the name toString. It must be a string return type. This is what's called, right? This is executed when I want to print a student. So the reason why previously this was printing this awkward location in memory is that when I called this line right here, right? When I called line 4 and I want to print Joe, what the computer did, or what Replit did here, is it went to the student class and it scanned this whole thing and it looked for a toString method, right? It looked for this and it didn't see it. So because it didn't see a toString method, it's just going to print out the location in a memory because that's all it knows, right? It doesn't know what I want from here. So it's not just going to print the name, and it's not just going to print the grade or the GPA, right? It doesn't know what I'm looking for. So that's why I just jump straight to, well, here's where it is, right? Because that's all the computer knows to do. But now let's say, you know, what I want to print out, right? Return name, right? Remember, I can access name directly because it's an instance variable. Everything in this student class can see name, which is great. Let's say name plus, if you remember your \n will put you on a new line. So actually we'll say name plus name, right? Because I'm going to say their name plus their name plus, now put this on a new line, grade plus grade plus \n GPA plus GPA. Now, let's try and run that again. And let's see what happens. Oh no! I got the \n wrong. Just be a /n. That's much better. Silly me, right? So now when I actually try to print this again, let's see what this looks like, right? So now I've got name John, grade 9, GPA 0. Obviously, because I haven't done anything with John. John is just a brand new student, or Joe, however you want to reference it here. But the idea is now, when it sees this print Joe, it's going to go back to my student class. It's going to read all the way down, and it's going to look for a method specifically with the name toString. Right, so it's going to look for this, and now it sees that, so it's going to hop in here and say, okay, cool, name plus this, right, plus their name, plus now put, I don't know why I put a space here. I didn't actually need to put a space here because I want those just to be on their own line, all lined up, nicely formatted, right? So it jumps and it sees, oh, okay, this is what you want when you want to print something. Now, I know in Band Booster you guys had to write a toString. I know it probably didn't really talk about it too much. But that's the idea. So if I want to print an object that I create, right? Something that's not already created for you in Java, right? Like strings, they already have a toString written, right? When we get to arrays, arrays have a toString method already written in the class from Oracle. But here, I've created this student class myself to create this object. I need to write my own toString so the computer knows, well, what do you want to display if you're trying to print this object? So I hope that was helpful. I wanted to clear that up just because, one, it's very, very important. Whoops, press some extra buttons I don't need to, right? It's very, very important to understand that. And it'll be really, really helpful for yourself when we go forward with some of our projects and everything, because you probably want to check to make sure that, you know, your constructor is working properly. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by printing stuff. So I'm going to leave you guys just some short multiple choice to go through today, and then I will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.